Hello everyone and welcome to my channel. Today's video I'm setting up April in my reading journal. I decided to switch tactics a little bit because I usually do a more scrapbook style, but this month I wanted to do some watercolor painting. I've been seeing a lot of people on Instagram and YouTube painting in their journals, and that's not something that I've done before, but it's something I've always been interested in. So I'm taping a little square with washi tape here. I recommend using a washi tape you don't like that much because I did go through quite a bit of washi tape in this whole video. Anyways, so I'm making a washi tape square, which kind of ends up being pointless because I have made a huge mistake here. I thought it'd be fun to paint directly into my journal without doing any kind of paper testing before. So I had no clue that the paper was going to react the way that it does, as you'll see in a minute. Anyways, in my bullet journal, I set up April with a rain kind of theme, and I wanted to carry that over into my reading journal, but it's a little bit more abstract than rain. It's mostly just muted blues and grays, and like a watercolor kind of layering theme. It's not really a concrete theme, so it's kind of hard to explain, and I'm sorry if I'm doing an awful job. Oh, as you can see here, my paper completely wrinkled. It did not work at all, and I knew that I wanted to layer the paints on top of each other, and if that's how it looked after one layer of watercolors, it was going to get destroyed after what I had planned to do. So I took out some watercolor paper that I had already because a while ago I wanted to learn how to do watercoloring, and I had fun doing it for a while. The thing is, like, I don't know, it's hard to keep doing something when you're like not very good at it, I guess. It's like hard to keep that passion. Anyways, so I'm painting on the watercolor paper and I'm starting off with a very, very light, I'm not sure if that's the right word, but I used a lot of water and a tiny little bit of a dark blue and a tinier little bit of gray that I mixed together. But a lot of water, that's the key. I used a lot of water. And I just painted that all over it. And I have to wait for it to dry to actually add the layers. You'll see me doing that later on. So while I'm waiting for that to dry, on the left page, I'm doing a recommendeds page. So I get a lot of books recommended to me, whether they're through people or whether I see them on TikTok, Instagram, BookTube, whatever. And I never have a place to put them. I'm just like, oh, I gotta remember that book. And then I don't write it down, or I don't put it in Goodreads, or I just try my hardest to forget, I guess. It's not that I try, it's just I can't hold on to these memories. Anyways, so I'm making a section in my reading journal for just a place to put all of those book recommendations. I'm only writing down 4 categories. Getting ahead of myself. You'll see later on, I go back to it. So after this layer, I have to let it dry completely again before I add another layer. So I go back to the recommended page, and I'm making 4 boxes because those are the main categories of books that I'm looking for, is just overall thrillers, romances, and then just nonfiction and regular fiction. I'm gonna stop talking about that because I'm not doing that right now. I kind of forgot how I filmed this video. It's like all over the place. Sorry about that. But I'm making this like strip of watercolor because I'm going to kind of make my own washi tapes. They don't end up looking like washi tape at all, and that's fine. But it gives the aesthetic that I was going for. And these, like, I only have 1 strip on here now, but I end up going back and making more strips later. And I use these strips as like headers. You'll see how I do it later on. But I have to do this kind of out of order because, like, with watercolors, you have to wait so long for it to dry. And if you try to do anything while it's still wet, it just completely ruins it. I also don't suggest taking any of my watercolor advice because if you haven't figured out by the complete mess I was making, and all of the errors I was making, I do not know what I'm doing when it comes to watercolors. I try my best, I enjoy doing it, not an expert. Anyways, back to the recommended page. So you see here the 4 boxes I was talking about earlier were on these little strips of highlighters where I'm going to write the categories. So back to the watercolors, I'm layering on like slightly more darker colors. Like I'm adding a little bit more blue, I'm adding a little bit more gray, only tiny little bits of more gray at a time. It's mostly more blue that I'm adding. And I want to go for 4 layers, so I'm going to end up doing 1 more layer after this. I'm so sorry that this is kind of all over the place and I'm working on multiple pages at a time, but it really is like, it really do be like that. Like you gotta wait for the watercolors to dry. You can't just... So it's either like I was gonna take 4 hours filming this where I was gonna wait for the watercolors to dry between each thing, or I was just gonna have to work on more than 1 page at a time. And you know, it'd be like that. So now I'm painting in a couple more of these layers because I was really liking how the first one came out and I wanted to do a couple more. The idea was to go a little bit darker with the blues for each little strip, like faux washi tape that I was doing. I'm not sure how well that comes across on camera, but in person, like you could definitely tell that the colors are darker. I also tried to do an ombre thing, but that's where you can see my watercolor inexperience. Did not quite know what I was doing there, so it's a little bit more noticeable than I intended, but I still like the overall look of it, and I still like how it came out, so I'm satisfied. So this page that I'm working on right now is going to be my stats and quote page. I kind of keep these similar in setup for the past couple months. I don't keep track of too many stats per month, but I do yearly, so I feel like it's not that necessary to carry it over into the months. So I'm just tracking how many books I read total, how many of those were for work, how many I read on my own time, and how many pages I read. Then I'm just pasting in some pictures that I printed out a while ago. These are pictures that I printed out when I was doing my setup, so I like how they kind of just tie everything in since this theme was kind of loose. So the watercolors on this water page were finished drying, thankfully. Like, it really took forever. And I'm probably just being dramatic and impatient, but it really did take forever. And I'm really happy with how this came out. I didn't really know what to expect because I'm so inexperienced, but I knew what I wanted in my head, and I'm so happy that it carried over to paper. It almost looks like a little like postage or like a, not a poster, like a postcard or something, like something somebody else made. Anyways, I'm proud of myself. The second header is just going to be for my quotes. And then on this next page, I decided to do something new, a new tracker. I thought that my reading journal was effective, and I like using it as I do now, but I think there are other things that I want to try out and see if I like it better than what I'm doing right now. So like this, I don't know if I said already, but this tracker is going to be a pages read tracker per day. And since I do read for work and I read for 8 hours, I'm not going to count that in my pages read tracker because that's just going to get out of hand and it's going to be a little bit ridiculous. So I'm gonna be tracking how many books that I read on my own time, like for fun. And I don't expect that I'm gonna get over 60 pages a day, but it is possible because there are days like Saturdays where I don't really do anything besides film and edit and go outside if it's a nice day. But I would like to keep track of the days that I am reading because I want to read more outside of work. I want to have that passion that I used to have of reading. Anyways, the inspiration for this is from Books Past Bedtime. I'm pretty sure that's what the YouTube is. I'll link her channel below. I really love her channel and I saw her doing this specific spread on her channel, so I'll link it below because I'm not that creative. Anyways, I'm painting one more strip because I'm making one more spread. It's just going to be the beginning of my book notes, I guess. The way that I track the books that I read in my reading journal is like I'll number them and I'll write the title and who wrote it, write my thoughts on it, and a rating. Anyways, so here's a flip through. I really hope you liked it. If you did, leave a thumbs up, comment if you are feeling happy, and yeah, I'll see you next week. Bye.